Away we go on a Monday edition, Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Law Offices, One Coletzel studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. Joshy DiMaggio is here as well. Producer Tiny Hands Hunter Vaughn back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. Super Bowl 59 in the books as the Philadelphia Eagles topped the Kansas City Chiefs last night, 40-22. It was not a very good game. Just a complete dominant performance from Philadelphia, who led throughout and ultimately wins their second Super Bowl in the last decade. Behind Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley and company, a nice big win for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Kansas City Chiefs, back in the big game, ultimately don't win this one, but they're not going anywhere, despite the fact they did not look like they belonged on the same field as the Eagles last night. I mean, that game was all Eagles all the time, which, to be honest with you, was the one outcome I never expected. I thought the Chiefs could win in a blowout, Chiefs could win close, or Eagles would win close. I didn't expect the Eagles winning in a blowout, but that's what we got. And it is what it is. They are and were one of, if not the best team in football all year long. I mean, they won 16 of their last 17 games. We know they beat the Packers twice, obviously, in Brazil in the season opener and then in the wild card round. But that was a really, really good team, led by a really, really good general manager and what seemingly is a pretty darn good head coach who's gotten there twice in his career since he was hired in Philadelphia a couple years back. So the Eagles win. Season's over. No more football. Unless you're a diehard indoor football league fan. We are done with football, which makes me sad. But the takeaway is this, man. The Eagles deserved it. They belonged in that game. And they are much further along than the Green Bay Packers. At least were this year. Fellas, I have a confession to make.
Oh, jeez.
I did not sleep very well last night. I finally fell asleep about 3 a.m. And from midnight to 3 a.m., I was laying in bed in a dark room, silently. And all I could think about was, I don't think the Packers are that close to playing on this weekend next year. And I'm probably just being a Debbie Downer, because I just watched another Super Bowl in which the Packers weren't in it and weren't even really that close. But man, I was really emotional last night. I couldn't sleep.
Nobody falls victim more to the, wow, I saw a team play good. My team could never do that than you.
That's not true.
You are enraptured by the buzz. You see headlines, Super Bowls, you see, and you're like, you get night terrors about it.
I did have night terrors.
To me, I watched it and I said, wow, this team that struggled against the Packers in 2 games, blew the doors off the commies and the Chiefs. Packers played them that well. Wow, they're probably only a couple players away. They're not as far as we thought.
So I'm with you. Like I hold on.
That's it. It's 180 from what you just said.
Hold on. Let me explain. I understand why I'm with you. It doesn't make sense in that
Not
scenario.
at all.
Yeah, I understand. So here's my feeling. This year they weren't that close. Despite what you just pointed out, 22-10 was the final of the Packers-Eagles game in the wild card round. It was the least amount of points the Eagles scored. It was not their closest deficit, though. I think they only beat the Rams by 5. But all in all, the team that played the Eagles the best in the postseason was the Green Bay Packers, which is great. A couple of things at play here, though. Eagles didn't hit their peak until later. Right, like they played their best football when it mattered most. NFC Championship game, Super Bowl, scoring a combined 95 points in those 2 games, by the way. But yeah, I mean, last night I was a little sad because it felt like this year they weren't that close. Does that mean next year they can't elevate and get to that level? Absolutely not. Am I confident they will? That's a different story. But when it came to 2024, a season in which we enter with expectations of this team was in the divisional round and close to the NFC Championship game last year, They should at least get back to the divisional round this year. And look, the matchup was tough. Injuries happened to Jordan Love throughout the year. It wasn't a perfect season. But yeah, I was sad last night. Does that mean it's impossible for them to get back to the Super Bowl next year? No. But that is certainly where my head was, and maybe you can help me.
I think you should be more upset about how bad you are at gambling on the Super Bowl.
Dude, I swear to God, I'm the only person in this building that lost money yesterday. And I lost $120 on the coin toss alone.
120? You might have a problem,
bucks
dude.
On heads. That's literally really all I gambled on. Like, I had a couple of other small things out there.
You should have followed me.
I should have. Joshy had a great Super Bowl Sunday.
Mm-hmm. To me, it's, I think, over-evaluating and projecting the Eagles to just continue into some sort of league dominance for years to come is not the right way to go. First of all, they aren't going to be able to play as many good players as they have. They got
Philly, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're going to have decisions to make. They are going to have to prioritize other positions over the others. Some great players are not going to be Philadelphia Eagles in the next 2 to 3 years. That's just simple matter of fact.
Well, there's a key thing there, though. The next 2 or 3 years. Philly's going to be back next year. San Francisco's probably going to bounce back next year.
I mean, what do we
Detroit will be
San Francisco thing?
Detroit will be back next year. Can you rule out Minnesota despite the uncertainty quarterback? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, there are good teams in the NFC.
There are, but there weren't. It felt like there really weren't that many a couple years ago.
There's a reason why the 2025 Super Bowl odds have come out already. And the AFC teams lead the top. It's because the NFC is much more balanced. It has a lot more competition. There's basically 3 good teams in the AFC, and you could count 6, 7 in the NFC. It's going to be harder to get out. You got to be good. No one's sitting here saying the Packers are right there. They're probably a pass catcher and a defensive end away from being a real competitive team.
Do you feel as if, and we'll get to this a bit later, but do you feel as if those things will be addressed this offseason? Can you say that with absolute certainty?
I can say with certainty they will be addressed.
Both of them?
Yes.
Wow.
I don't know how they're going to be addressed.
What makes you so confident?
What do you mean? 17 games and the playoffs that we watched, with the 2 glaring holes being, wow, this team can't get after the Packers and after the passer, and wow, this team can't seem to find anybody open when it matters. Like, those are the 2 big stories.
Yep.
For the Packers season. Obviously, Jordan Love's injuries and him not playing up to what everyone had hoped is a factor. But the biggest story is simply you lacked difference makers at very important positions.
So I saw this stat last night. I think Mike Reese is the one that tweeted it out. Mahomes dropped back 43 times.
Yeah.
They blitzed him 0 times.
Yep.
I mean, how many times was he sacked last night?
I think 6.
I mean, is that just one pass rusher away? Packers can't do that. If you had Myles Garrett,
hold
sure.
on. Were they that unstoppable against the Packers, or was it an offensive line issue?
2 things can be true.
You don't have to be the Eagles to win. It certainly helps, but you know what stops a really good defensive line and offensive line?
That's true. Now, the Packers do have something to address this offseason in terms of their offensive line. 2 things there. Number 1, obviously, Josh Myers is a free agent. And then in that wild card game, just one key piece goes down, and everything crumbles.
Let's be honest, it was 2. There was a 6th offensive lineman who wasn't able to suit up.
Okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
You're referring to, don't tell me, Jacob Morgan. Jordan Morgan.
Yes, Jordan Morgan.
I'm going to get that right someday.
No, you won't.
Jordan Morgan was hurt, and Elton Jenkins was out. Who plays center next year?
Probably
Travis
Myers.
Glover? Oh, you think Myers is back?
Probably. I don't think his market's going to be that good.
I think it's going to be a John Runyon situation.
I think he's more valuable to the Packers than he is to anyone else.
I wouldn't argue with that. And inside scoop, dating a Green Bay girl.
I don't think that's going to make much of a difference.
That's fair. I think I've told you this before, right? I went to middle school with her.
Yes.
Yep,
Green Bay,
multiple times.
Yep.
Okay, just making sure everybody knows. Maybe that's a factor. Who knows? Should I ask her?
It's the least cool humble brag.
Should I ask her? I haven't talked to her in like 15 years.
No, I could care less about Josh Myers' personal life. The only thing I care about is that he wasn't Creed Humphrey.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That is the guy they probably should have.
What the very next pick?
So you watched the Super Bowl last night, and you didn't think at all about the Packers. I mean, you were obviously focused on the hundreds of dollars you won last night.
Very focused, sweating,
holding
on to my butt.
But you weren't thinking about.
I was thinking about two things. I know everybody's going to talk about Cooper DeJean, who got his first ever NFL interception.
I wanted to go through today's show without mentioning him.
But the Packers drafted offensive line because guess what? If you don't have an offensive line, it looks like it does. The best quarterback we've seen since Tom Brady looks utterly pedestrian. Mm-hmm. So having guys that can stop those guys across from them is extremely important. And the other thing was, even though Goody's missed, it feels justified, the amount of investment made on the defensive front. Now, Lucas Van Ness being a miss at 13 hurts a lot. Big mistake. But for everyone going, get a wide receiver in the first round, get all, whatever position is the flavor of whatever offseason for the Packers, you're never going to go wrong having good offensive line and defensive line. And you could supplement it. You could have great corners. They're nice to have. Trust me, I understand that. But the trenches are still this far into the NFL, as many years as it's gone on. Those guys up front are going to be the biggest difference makers, bar none. Mm-hmm. Sans quarterback, of course.
Why couldn't they have drafted Christian Gonzalez over Lucas Van Ness? Why couldn't they have drafted Creed Humphrey over Josh Myers? Why couldn't they have...
That one was a mistake.
I mean, there's several of them.
Yeah, but there's several for all of them. The Creed Humphrey one sticks out because he was the very next pick, and he was the guy everyone was going, Creed Humphrey's going to be great. I don't know why he's not getting drafted yet. And then the Packers reached on the guy who I think had a 4th-round grade.
Who did they pick there?
Myers.
Oh, they did pick Myers.
It was literally the next pick. The Chiefs went,
so that was round 2 or round 3?
2, I believe.
Okay.
They went, phew, good thing they did that.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Also, Strouf, don't do this game with draft picks and I wish they would have, every single team across the NFL has this game.
Am I the only one feeling sad today? I'm sad today.
Also, we can't forget 32 teams passed on Cooper DeJean before he got taken 40.
I thought we were talking about him.
Yeah, I didn't agree to that.
I don't remember that from the pre-show meeting. That never came up.
Josh, admittedly, I did not listen to Jen, Gabe, and Chewy this morning. Did you take any Cooper DeJean phone calls?
No, I'm not interested in people saying, hey, this guy we saw make one play,
right.
Who even Evan Williams probably played on par with him despite being drafted later, is the reason the Packers aren't great.
Okay.
No, the TJ Watt one, you can argue.
Yeah, go for it. Right,
the Packers scouting department saying they didn't see a difference between TJ Watt and Vince Beagle. Whoops. Whoops-a-daisies. Got that one wrong.
Just a little bit.
Left no doubts about it either. Right. No room for argument on that one.
That one, I understand. Cooper DeJean, he made one splash play. Cooper DeJean might not matter again in 2 years.
He might not, but
could be Malcolm
nice
Smith.
Play for him regardless last night. Could be. There was a moment in time last night where Cooper DeJean was the Super Bowl MVP.
Yes.
It was a brief moment, but it did exist.
One more pick, and I think he gets it.
Agreed. I'm glad he didn't, though. I could not handle that discourse.
The discourse would be the worst you've ever heard in your life.
I know, and that was my fear coming into it today. But regardless, here we are. Packers Super Bowl odds for the 2025 Super Bowl, or Super Bowl 60, which is in, where is that, Santa Clara? San Francisco? Where's the actual stadium? Santa Clara?
Santa Clara, yes.
Yeah. The Bay Area.
There you go. Not the Green Bay area where the draft is, but the Bay Area of California where the Super Bowl is. That would be where that is.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Packers tied for 8th best odds in the NFL at plus 1,900 to win Super Bowl 60. Eagles number 1 at plus 600. Chiefs number 2 with the Ravens and Bills all plus 700. Lions are plus 900. Niners Here you go, Joshy, plus 1,500. Who's their quarterback going to be? Is Brock Purdy under contract? One more year?
I believe he might be, but he has to get paid.
And then it's the Bengals at plus 1,800, and then the Commanders and the Packers tied at plus 1,900. Big drop-off after that, as the next teams are both from Los Angeles. Rams and Chargers at plus 2,800, coming in after the Commanders and the Packers to round out the top 10 for odds.
But there's also places, if you look, that the Chiefs are still first. Just based on... basically,
and guess what?
Rolling out of bed and being in the Super Bowl.
Correct. And guess what? They'll probably be there again.
Very good chance. I wouldn't bet against it.
Travis Kelce ain't going nowhere. Right? He's not retiring after that.
No.
Had they lost 40-37, maybe 40-22.
He was bad,
and it really wasn't even that close. Everybody was bad. Mahomes was bad.
Yeah, I mean. People were blaming the offensive line, rightfully so. They couldn't block anyone, but he wasn't helping himself by any measure out there. So, I mean, that was the worst game I've seen Patrick Mahomes ever play, and that's factoring in the fact.
I think I agree with you.
That's factoring in the fact that his offensive line really couldn't block anyone. He made it worse.
Yeah. Bruce chimes in on Twitter. Josh, he's mad at us.
Oh,
stop drafting after the draft. It's much easier that way. It's a fair point by him.
Excuse me?
And then he goes, by the way, that KC center, Creed Humphrey, last night was not as good as Josh Myers.
Yeah, last night against one of the best D lines in the entire NFL. All of them were bad against that D line. Great.
Joshy's not even sure how to handle this one.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Creed Humphrey has all pros in his history.
As far as I'm aware, that is correct.
Okay. Do you think Creed Humphrey was the reason, or was it the edges? What do you think was the problem last
I'm going to blame the tackles.
Yeah, oh. Huh.
In fact, Creed Humphrey, first team All-Pro this year.
Oh.
Second team in 2022.
Huh. That is a terminal case of not knowing ball that just happened there. Simple as that. It's an affliction, never going to be able to get over it.
Is that the worst diss to ever be told? Like, don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
Kendrick Lamar versus Drake last night, 80,000 people in unison saying, like that. That's a bad diss. That's an all-time bad diss. But would anything hurt your soul more than somebody looking you directly in the eyes and saying, that's a terminal case of you not knowing ball? I mean, that's a hard one to recover from. Hard to come back from that.
Don't say anything that bad.
Well, and
you could stop yourself from being diagnosed with terminal case of not knowing ball.
Even just telling another guy that they don't know ball is like a big diss. So the fact that you one-upped it with a terminal case, like it's not just he didn't know ball, but it is terminal, just makes it even worse. Like it was almost a hat on a hat of the insult.
A hat on the hat. Yeah. All right, let's get into this. I feel like there are 3 musts for the Packers this offseason to get me over my sadness exiting the Super Bowl and getting into the offseason. All right, so today is February 10th. We've got just over a month until free agency begins. And then we've got about 2.5 months until the NFL draft is in Green Bay, and we're in Green Bay, and we're partying and having the time of our lives up in 920. By the way, can't wait. Joshy's going to be up there. I'm going to be up there. A ton of our ESPN Wisconsin teams going to be up there. I'm going to be up there all week, rumor has it. Monday through Saturday. I'll be up in Green Bay draft week. So very much looking forward to that here in a couple of months. But before we get there, / as we get there, I have 3 things the Packers must address before showing up to training camp in July. Let's start with something we've already talked about today. And that would be addressing the defensive line. Whether that is trading for a name like Max Crosby or Myles Garrett, that is adding depth pieces in free agency, or it is drafting a defensive end once again and taking another crack at that. In some way, shape, or form, you have to address this. We've talked about how good and dominant the Eagles were up front. Well, the Packers need to be that if they want to be playing on Super Bowl Sunday next year for Super Bowl 60. So addressing the D-line, whether that's through trade, free agency, or the draft, that's where my head goes. Number 2, you must solve the mysterious case of Jair Alexander. And that part's more twofold than anything. Number 1, make your decision on Jair Alexander, which I think was already made. And that will likely be he will be designated as a post-June 1st cut from the Packers roster. But how do you backfill then? Do you go into next season with Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, and Eric Stokes maybe? Who probably won't be on the team, but maybe.
I think Stokes is back, just to add to that. Kevin King style.
Yeah.
A.J. Dillon style.
Yeah.
Who else wants him better here than probably anywhere else?
Correct. And that's why I said maybe.
Yeah, fifth guy?
Yeah,
Great.
sure, which is fine.
Yeah.
But how do you backfill Jair? Right, because clearly the Packers did not...
Pray.
Packers did not anticipate what was going to happen with Jair, but he's been unavailable for 3 years now. Best ability, availability, goodbye Jair Alexander. How do you fill that spot? Is that through the draft? Is that by signing a guy like DJ Reid, who has some experience under his belt and can be a top corner for you at a relatively decent price? How do you backfill Jair? How do you solve the mysterious case of Jair Alexander? That is must number 2 for me. And the final must is just ensure continuous growth for Jordan Love. That is by making decisions like Josh Myers or somebody else. That is by making decisions like, are we going to go get Devontae Adams? Are we going to finally draft a day 1 wide receiver? You've got to continue to do things to ensure the growth of your quarterback. Because what was done in 2024 was not good enough. As simple as that. Offensive line, wide receivers. Keep putting studs around him and make sure he is protected. Did a really nice job avoiding sacks this season, did Jordan Love. Outside of that wild card game against Philadelphia. Really good at it all season long. So that's great. But now you need playmakers. And you need to make sure he has continued to be protected. So just to recap, my 3 musts for the Packers this offseason. Number 1, address the defensive line. Number 2, solve the mysterious case of Jair Alexander. And number 3, continue to ensure Jordan Love's growth. Those are the musts. Those are the non-negotiables for me. I would imagine Joshy might take my ensure Jordan Love's growth a step further by saying you need to acquire a number 1 receiver. Joshy, I would imagine that is on your must list this offseason.
Yes. I think that's, I mean, we underrated how different Jordan Love's seasons were in his first year as a starter, if you break them into halves. And largely, in part, that was due to the lack of experience and knowing what the hell they were doing in the wide receiver room. Once that improved throughout the course of the year, Jordan Love also looked much better. I think we can say pretty much with certainty everyone played worse in year 2 of Jordan Love. Maybe Jane Reid for first half
couple
of
of
the season.
weeks,
Yeah.
and then the great disappearing act.
Yes.
For my guy. Yeah.
Christian Watson at times looked the best I've ever seen him look.
Agreed.
But he also disappeared quite often as well.
Oh, and then he tore his ACL.
That
so
hurts.
You're not going to see him until
Correct.
November.
Romeo Dobbs stepped back.
2 concussions
Wick
this year
stepped
for him.
back.
2 weeks ago on Wildy and Tausch, we went through the Pro Football Focus grades, and it was basically the entire roster regressed, even from those. And I know that's not a perfect system, but like it was everybody. There really wasn't anybody that got better. You just had like a rookie like Edrin Cooper who played well, but he obviously wouldn't have had a grade from last year. So like you just didn't have guys getting better on the team.
Yeah, the funny part of that for me is this is a team that looked a little bit more consistent on both sides of the ball, specifically defensively. They won more games, but yet nobody took a jump forward that you were anticipating, outside of rookies.
Yeah, well, and additions.
Right, Josh Jacobs, Avery McKinney, obviously.
Yeah,
but
the team changed with the infusion of new players, like writ all of them. That was probably the biggest difference maker in the Packers year over year. Would be nice to do that again.
It would be.
Do you think?
And will it be in the form of Devontae Adams and Myles Garrett? Probably not.
Did you, by the way, let me check the rundown here. Nope, not up there. Did you see the Ian Rappaport article?
I did not.
He was talking about the future for many of the biggest.
Did you just peep the rundown? Huh? You just peep the rundown for the first time 25 minutes into the program?
Yeah, I'm too busy giving takes. I diagnosed with someone with case of terminal not knowing ball. I'm on fire. I can't take time to be looking around that stuff. In an article about all the big pass rushers, Myles Garrett,
Max Crosby, etc.
You name them. Max Crosby, in that, they were talking about he expressed how he doesn't want to be on a rebuilding team. He wants to go to a place to win. He said, it would be an option for the Raiders and Max Crosby together to send him somewhere where he knows people. Example, Green Bay.
Rich Bisaccia, Josh Jacobs.
Which to me was interesting.
Keyshawn Nixon.
Because we as fans were doing hey, there's at least some sort of connection here, and there's a need here. And then Rap Sheet kind of just says, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Which I found interesting, I don't think Rap Sheet is just firing and shooting into the dark.
Bingo.
Those guys like him, Shefty, name the insiders, they aren't throwing random names at a wall just for entertainment.
You nailed it. I was just about to say the same thing. Yeah. That's not an accident.
Right.
Right? The guys that have as much information as Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, et cetera, have, they don't say things like that on accident.
Right. The interest has been expressed by either or maybe both Max Crosby's camp, or the Green Bay Packers camp.
Okay.
That's the way I read into it. And, I mean, we could be wrong. It could be coming from a source within the league who thinks there's a connection there. But I would be led to believe it's probably one of those two sides saying, yeah, that would be a good marriage.
Yeah. Sure would be, especially if you get a guy like Davante Adams, who he is quoted as saying is his, quote, twin flame.
Yeah.
In the Receiver documentary on Netflix.
Yeah. I mean, adding Davante, also Josh Jacobs, Bisaccia, like you said. Keyshawn Nixon, right? He was a Raider?
You got it.
So
they're going to become the Raiders East.
Hey, well,
if we could take all their good players,
yeah, Davante Adams, Max Crosby, Keyshawn Nixon, and Rich Bisaccia, not a bad haul from what that team was a few years ago, right? Bisaccia was that interim head coach, got him into the postseason. Or no, that was Antonio Pierce who got him into the postseason. I don't think Bisaccia quite got him in. Maybe he did. I can't remember either. But regardless, those guys loved Rich Bisaccia.
Yes,
it brought over Nixon and Bisaccia that year. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But
I mean, if you take a team's four best players, I really don't care who they are.
Here's the fun thing.
You're getting better.
We just witnessed and went through last week the NBA trade deadline, right? We went through that last Thursday. And it was chaotic. I mean, it was chaotic as hell, right? You saw more superstars moved on trade deadline day than maybe ever before. Between Andrew Wiggins and Jimmy Butler, Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis, De'Aaron Fox, Zach LaVine, Chris Middleton, Kyle Kuzma. You got all these stars on the move. When you look across the league right now, by the way, the season just ended last night. Think about all of the huge names that are on the trade block this offseason, right? Let's just run through them. Myles Garrett from Cleveland has requested a trade. Max Crosby seemingly has requested a trade. Trey Hendrickson, who just led the league in sacks, says he either needs to be traded or needs a new contract in Cincinnati.
His GM also added on top of that and said, it's unlikely we'll be able to keep all the players we want to.
Well, T. Higgins falls into that too for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
How about on the wide receiver front? Davante Adams in New York hasn't requested a trade, but seemingly is on his way out. We'll get into that a little bit more later. Deebo Samuel in San Francisco is now searching a trade, which the Packers won't touch. They have Jaden Reid. Cooper Kupp for the Rams is on his way out. Again, the Packers won't touch him, but I'm just pointing out that there is going to be, even if I think I named 6 or 7 guys, even if all of those guys aren't moved, there is still going to be some sort of movement here over the course of the next 2 months leading up to the NFL draft.
Yeah, and there's probably names we don't know of yet that will become unhappy with however their contract, et cetera, is going.
Which is that's really fascinating to me because this is abnormal, right? Like you don't have this many stars requesting trades as the season is just ending, by the way, right? Like Radio Row at the Super Bowl leading up to Super Bowl week always brings some chaos and some interesting quotes and some comments of players that are disgruntled because the season didn't end the way they wanted to, which of course would be by raising the Lombardi Trophy. Now, I don't think most of these are out of spite. Most of these seem very well calculated, very well thought out, and likely to happen. Myles Garrett's still the one where I don't know what Cleveland could even possibly get to move him.
There is a theory now that post 6-1, they could save themselves about $16 million as opposed to pre 6-1, which I think
You can designate that, though, can't you?
you can. There are weird ways to work around it, but he could have a landing spot pre that. But I don't think you would be able to trade your 2025 first round pick that happens in April and then designate him to be traded. Like that
Gotcha.
wouldn't work that
Gotcha.
way. So that would mean you have to kind of play in the future there. I do think an interesting wrinkle to add to basically every one of those names is Sans, Debo, and Cooper Kupp is those guys all kind of said they want to be on contenders. Obviously, money's part of it, but Devontae, in no short of certain terms, said, I need a Super Bowl in my legacy that is important to me. Myles Garrett had the famous, my dream wasn't to go from Northeast Ohio to Canton, it was to win a Super Bowl.
Yep.
And then Max Crosby also said, I'm not happy with rebuilding. I'm not going to do that here.
Right. I mean, these are guys that want to chase titles. And reading the odds, the Packers are viewed as a top 10 team to win the Super Bowl already next year.
Which also, that drops all of their asking price. If a team like the Saints or a team like the Titans
Yep.
or a team, you name it, bad team, are just blocked out and they can't make a bad mistake, they can't do a Cleveland Browns and give away one of the worst contracts and one of the worst trade values of all time, you're immediately in a better spot because the Eagles are aggressive, but they're not going to throw everything away from one player.
No.
Howie Roseman's too smart about it.
Howie Roseman's so good, dude.
You look at some of the trades he's pulled off for guys, you would go, how the hell would that happen?
Is he the best GM in football?
It's hard to argue.
Brett Veach of Kansas City would be the other argument.
Also very good.
John Lynch in San Francisco?
Yeah. They've got, I mean, they can't draft for the life of them. They've missed on quarterbacks more times and got lucky on a 7th rounder.
They got lucky out of Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah. So, I think he knows football. The draft is very clearly a weakness.
Yeah. Where it is clearly not for Howie Roseman.
Correct.
That is a bona fide strength for him. I mean, think about the dudes that had impacts recently up for them.
Yeah, I mean,
Jalen Carter. I mean, it is unbelievable. Cooper DeJean last night.
It also wasn't long ago that he took Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. We can't forget that.
Don't forget that.
You can never, ever, ever forget how obviously bad that was, and everyone knew it when it happened.
That's true.
The Vikings laughed at them. The Vikings laughed in their draft room.
I understand. But he's also won 2 Super Bowls since that happened.
Yes.
Or not only one since that happened, but
Right, and also they got a guy who was way too close to a murder happening, fall to the 9th pick, and he should have been probably 2 overall.
well,
And that season, they also managed to have a terrible season because of injuries, despite being a much better roster than that.
regardless, I don't know how much of that is the GM's fault. I'm just giving him a pat on the back the day after he wins the Super Bowl, Josh. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, it's just, I've seen a lot of comparison between the two, and the situations aren't the same.
$5 Tommy quick on the ESPN Madison YouTube chat says, if Goody doesn't bring in a better pass rusher than Rashawn Gary, then he isn't serious about winning. Period. End of story. Interesting thought there from $5 Tommy. Go ahead, Hunter.
Some rumors coming out of Dallas is that the Cowboys front office have had conversations about trading Micah Parsons this offseason. You're probably going to have to give up like your next 3 first-round picks, but are you okay if Goody does that? Because he's a name that's going to get talked about more now.
3 first-round picks is way too much.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade that much. But am I
that's
open
what
to the idea
Jerry's
of
going
Micah
to ask
Parsons?
for.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not pulling the trigger on that.
Yeah, because you have to pay him. I think I could justify 2 first-round picks.
Agreed.
And then paying him because he is Micah Parsons of top, 5 pass rusher in the
Yeah,
league?
and then you just have
When
to
he's
run
right.
at him, and then he's completely neutralized.
Yeah.
So
Also true. Edgerrin Cooper, baby.
The fun thing is, like, you just mentioned a top 5 pass rusher. There's a bunch of them available, technically.
Yes.
Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons, allegedly. I mean, like, who are we missing? TJ Watt? I mean, like, that's your top 5.
Yeah, if we were to put them, roll them all into a ball, factor in age, cost of contract, and cost of trade, I legitimately believe that the Packers' number 1 priority would be Max Crosby. because you get a little less of the age, a little less of the pay, and you get a little more life out of them. I do think, even though Myles Garrett is probably a very close second,
Yep.
he's going to take the youth in the tiebreaker, despite Myles Garrett being Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes. I'm good with whatever, man. Just make a damn move, because $5 Tommy's point is right. What we saw this year from the defensive line and the pass rush specifically was borderline, if not even borderline, unacceptable for what you are investing in that room. If Goody doesn't admit the shortcomings of that room and address it, and seriously address it this offseason, that's almost inexcusable.
I think it stands to note what's important, and you can say it of both Veach and Roseman. They utilize every avenue of player acquisition and talent acquisition. The Packers famously used to only use one. They started to dabble in two now, so they use both the draft and free agency, which was a rarity in Green Bay up until then.
It's still a dabble for the most part.
It's a dabble, and it has to be at the right price. But, hey, if you're going to back up your big signings with Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, Adrian Amos, and then go to Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs, what am I mad about? What am I getting angry about at this point?
Yeah, I mean...
But the lack of any sort of trading really that has been impactful since Brett Favre came to town. Like, that's just ignoring an avenue that you're just prioritizing draft capital too much.
It's a good point. It's a really good point, Payo. Because now I'm going through it in my head, like, what are the biggest trades they've made?
The biggest trades are all away in recent
Correct.
history.
Rodgers, Favre, obviously, Devontae.
And even Rasul Douglas.
Rasul Douglas to the Bills, yep. I can't think of a big splash trading for. Was Jalen Smith a trade? Remember that experience? I think he was a free agent.
I don't even know who Jalen Smith is.
Former Cowboy. He was...
Yeah, former Cowboy linebacker.
That was like
I
a
think he was
free
just
agent. It was like...
It was one of those low-risk moves by
like
Goody that he's made a
three
living on.
teams cut him after he had left the Cowboys. And
Yes.
Joshy, what'd you think of the score bug last night?
Indifferent.
You don't have takes on score bugs?
No. Can I read the score? Can I tell what time it is? Do I know the time down and distance? Good to go.
You ever play the video game Fortnite?
I have seen it played. I've never played.
Okay, so the font they were using on the Super Bowl lower thirds or scorebug was the Fortnite font.
It means nothing to me.
Appeals to a younger audience is what I think.
I find it interesting when the internet all gathers around one thing, and it's like, did I think it was the best looking thing I've ever seen? No. Had people not tweeted about it, would I have really even noticed a difference? Probably not, because I watched the game.
Yes, but it's the only other thing on the screen. And when you tweeted about this, Josh, like I said, Fox is a multi-billion-dollar company. They can afford to pay people to make something look better than that. You can literally go on our YouTube and watch our Prep Mania coverage here on ESPN Madison. I make things look better than that. And I'm doing that in Photoshop by myself.
I'm happy for you.
It's pathetic.
I'm very happy for you.
It is pathetic for a company that big to be that bad. Like, they were just that bad.
I want you to know I'm proud of you.
I don't care about how proud of me you are.
And I believe you that you can make one better. It is not something that I thought was worth 10,000 tweets and people being outraged and screaming about it.
But when they're paying millions of dollars for the rights to that game, and that's the product they put out there for a TV broadcast, which that's a part of the broadcast, then yes, it's bad. It's as bad as Tom Brady not being very good at that, and he shouldn't have been doing the Super Bowl already. Like, it's the same thing. All of the product matters, whether it's the score bug or the announcers. It isn't just the game on there. It just isn't.
Did you turn off the TV because of the score bug? Nope. Okay, moving on.
But okay, so Josh, when you have a meeting with leadership for Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, and you're doing a bad job with music or sound and things like that, then, oh, nope, people still tuned in, so it doesn't matter if as a producer I wasn't doing my job well enough. Like, no,
Right, but
all
they
of it
did their
matters. The
job as
whole
they were
product
asked.
matters.
You just didn't like it, Hunter. They did their job as asked.
They did their job.
They said,
They
make
threw-
a new scoreboard.
They threw 3 big letters on the screen and 2 numbers and
That's
said, we're
your
good.
opinion. The people at Fox disagreed. You don't think
Which is
you don't
sad.
think this is the guy at top?
That's
Great.
pathetic. That's pathetic that they
Then
thought
go
that was
find
good
the
enough.
guy who approved the score bug. I don't care. I couldn't care.
All right, that was good. It's
pathetic.
I knew we'd get a hearty debate out of that one.
It's just, I don't know. Read a book or something.
And he takes on the halftime show.
Boring.
Okay, Josh. So let me understand this. Mr. Music Snob. What was it, last week?
Yeah.
You cried about the Grammys and how current music is, it's so commercialized, it's so boring. And then they literally have a halftime show in which he is actually putting something out there that isn't just, I'm going to just entertain, watch me dance, ha ha ha. And then you're
were we
nope,
not
that's
entertaining
boring.
there? You understand the difference between the critique of the art of music and the largest scale available to anybody in the world of performing music, and why, one, you might want to lean more towards mass appeal and Maroon 5 and how they could do something that would have millions of people singing along, or Kendrick's artful for performance that half of the stands didn't really understand, or the people watching.
So it's only art, and it can only be art when you choose that it is. So Josh DiMaggio is the ultimate decider of when art is allowed and when it's entertainment. Okay.
Thank you for not understanding a word that I said and just trying to make a point before I actually made it. I would not say the Grateful Dead should play a halftime show because the mass appeal isn't there. When you go for mass appeal, you need very popular top 40 songs because there are 110 million people watching. So being able to tap your grandma, being able to tap her toes and sing along, and your mom being able to tap her toes and sing along is important to
my mom and my
that.
grandma aren't the target audience of the halftime show and haven't been for 30 years. Their target audience is 18 to 35.
How long ago did Prince do it? How long did Prince do it? How long did the Rolling Stones do it?
Usher did it last year.
Right. My mom lost her mind when she got to saying, yeah.
So real quick, hold on. Follow-up question. Notice I didn't give an opinion, by the way.
Yes.
I just knew this was going to be a time bomb. This was fun. Oh, boy. I lost my train of thought. I'm not going to lie to you. You guys are distracting the hell out of me right now.
Good.
You two little bickering buddies. I believe I was going to say something to the effect of, what you're saying is Shabuzi should have played the halftime show.
Bro, don't get me going on Shabuzi. You could have argued that Kendrick bringing out Shabuzi would have probably helped him a lot if we want to go to there. That's how far I go. As much as I hate that song, as much as I can't stand it, I would be like, makes sense. I hear that song everywhere I go. Other than Not Like Us, those songs Kendrick performed had no mass appeal.
Except for Squabble Up, except for TV Off.
No,
except
they ain't playing those.
Except
they ain't
for
playing
Humble.
those.
Yeah,
those ain't. Hey, those ain't bangers. They ain't bangers. Those ain't bangers.
They are, and they're played everywhere.
Kendrick ain't got bangers like that. It's just not like that.
Except it is. But just because you don't see it, you're the ultimate decider of what's popular. So, nope, Josh DiMaggio doesn't think it's popular, so nope, it doesn't count.
Album sales are. Fame is. Those
and literally his newest album is one of the top albums.
Oh, and how does that rank all time? Probably not anywhere close to any of the guys I just named.
All right. Okay. Joseph chimes in. This is getting into Wilde and Tausch level of bickering.
I mean, whenever I get into, I just got to go to level 10.
I've noticed.
Yeah.
That's the most fired up I've ever seen you.
The funny thing is I'm not actually fired up. It's just more entertaining for me to get mad about it and then just forget.
So in 4 weeks and 6 days, we will have a bracket.
You're going to transition to that?
New AP poll out, Wisconsin, number 16, Marquette 18.
More interesting.
Hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
Dougie Gottlieb, 20 in a row, 20 losses in a row.
Oof.
Our guy was at Radio Row last week. Doug
in the midst of this losing streak, and he decided, I'm going to go to New Orleans.
You got to cancel. You got to.
Doug Gottlieb showed up in New Orleans for 2 days. He missed a practice on Thursday before they went on the road.
Missing a practice after 19 consecutive losses is the best. And I don't care if it was just a shoot around.
He's so unserious.
It has reached preposterous levels.
I love it. And I do not, he better not get fired. And it sounds like my buddy Scott Vancy, who's been on the show before, wrote an article talking to Green Bay Athletic Director Josh Moon last week. Moon believes in him, at least in the quotes he does.
Which
is he just a fan of his radio program? Is that all this is?
Grew up listening to him?
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine being on that bad of a losing streak, and you got to go into your boss's office, be like, hey, man, I got to miss a practice. Like, I got to take a day off to go down and do that. Like, that's crazy.
I don't want to give anyone free advertising, but X, Y, and Z is going to pay for my trip down to New Orleans to talk to who knows who.
Adam Sandler, right?
Yes, we haven't won in 19 games. I understand that, sir.
Okay, I admittedly have never listened to Doug Gottlieb's show. And I don't know that anybody else on this panel has.
Nope.
Does he talk about his team? Like, do you think he opens his show today with
I don't.
It's been 20 in a row here in the Tundra.
I'm sure if they were good, he would. He'd find a way to. But if I know anything about the internet and doing radio and content, I would imagine people remind him rather often when they disagree with his points.
Oh, they
or
do.
His takes.
Yeah, they do.
I would imagine his talk and text line and his live chat for whatever platform he's on is littered with 0-20s.
There is 364 teams in Division I college basketball. According to Ken Pomeroy, they rank 341st.
Not good.
Of 364. In terms of win-loss, they rank 363rd of 364.
There's a one-win team out there?
No, it's another two-win team. Canisius, maybe?
Canassus.
How do you say that? Okay, Canassus is 2-21. Green Bay is 2-23. Actually, win-loss, they have the worst record in the country. 2-23.
Oh, it's nice of Ken Pom to give him that distinction of one better than the worst.
Yeah, that is nice. So, there you go. Wow, that is... Yeah, they have the worst record in the country. 2-23.
Hey, come March, though, nobody wants to see him.
You did tell me that the other week. Yep.
Which,
you did tell me that.
You know, no one's going to have to at this point, so...
The good news for everybody in the Horizon League, all those big Horizon League fans, every team makes the Horizon League tournament.
His coaching
Those poor
performance
fans.
is so bad, I think he deserves to be fired from his radio job.
Now that's a take. Let him focus on it all the way through.
If you can manage anything that poor, you're undeserving of giving sports opinions.
I love that Josh goes, hey, hold on a minute. I understand there's two teams in the state ranked in the top 20. I get that. But this is way more, he said out loud, way more entertaining.
Yes.
20 in a row. Mm-hmm. This was a 2-3 basketball team at one point.
Yeah.
They were 2-3. They are now 2-23.
Yeah. They lost to programs that have kids that are just locally close. That's why they're there.
Incredible.
They're losing to those guys.
They are. That's true.
They're like, hey, that kid's pretty nice down the street. Maybe he doesn't have an offer. He'd like to come here.
I don't think that part's true.
In some of those programs, they lost to a division.
You mean another? I got you.
Yes.
Yeah, because Green Bay is not that way. But
No, but I'm saying they're losing to.
Dougie's scouring every country in the
Yes.
world. 24-year-old Israeli is who we were talking about earlier this year, or a couple months ago. Jonathan Levy. It's legitimately wild. Anyway. All right. Well, Wisconsin 16, Marquette 18. We are less than 5 weeks away from having brackets. We'll gear up for March Madness and the tournament here in the next couple weeks as we really dive headfirst into college basketball season. I'm fired up, man.
What did I miss about Marquette? Why are they 18th?
They've lost 3 in a row.
Oh.
Because they suck.
Oh.
They don't, but offense has been really poor. They lost again on Saturday.
No, you're right. Going 1 for 8 from 3, one of your star players, or your point guard that's supposed to be a national player of the year, is just deciding, you know what, I'm in a slump. I'm just going to shoot threes out of it. Like, what are we doing?
He's Doomsday Hunter. Doomsday Hunter is around.
So bad.
Hunter, I got good news. It's only early February.
Yeah, that's great.
Left.
And right now, the way this team is playing and has been playing since Big East play started, they won't win a game in the tournament. Big East or NCAA.
And here's the thing. Wisconsin?
They're winning.
Wisconsin's an Elite 8 team.
Yeah, they're legitimately like really, really good.
Yeah. I thought that, I mean, you don't beat a team like Arizona like that by accident.
No, correct.
That it's hard to repeat, absolutely, seeing as they scored like the most points ever. But that isn't.
Dude, I am incredibly impressed by what Greg Gard's done there. I mean, for a guy that quote unquote was on the hot seat, to lose as many players as he did in the portal and then respond the way they have, being a top, 16 team in the country now. They've only lost 3 games. They are shooting the ball out of the freaking gym. I mean, they are an unbelievable three-point shooting team. They're the best free throw shooting team in the country. Greg Gard's got something cooking in Madison right now.
I, as somebody who has watched the Badgers all my life, Ben Brust's team making the Final Four being one of probably my top 5 sports memories ever, this is the most exciting version of and entertaining version of the Badgers to watch. And I've watched some Badgers teams where I convinced myself it was entertaining.
Yes.
Hey,
I have a good example for you. Johnny Davis.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Johnny Davis and Brad Davison.
There was one entertaining person on that team.
And it was not Brad Davison.
Right. But, like, this is, I mean, the program has just completely evolved in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
In terms of how they win, how they play. And it's kind of, everyone just kind of, it's getting louder because obviously you're 11th. What did you say they were?
They're 16th.
16th in the nation. And they have that big win. But I still think people are describing old Wisconsin when they talk about it.
Yeah, and they're not old Wisconsin.
No.
I mean, this team puts up points, puts up shots, and I mean, a primarily new roster, right? Like, you got Max Klesmit, Stephen Crowell, and John Blackwell back. But pretty much otherwise, these are guys that didn't either A, see the floor last year, or B, play for Wisconsin last year.
Yeah.
Like Jack Janicki's getting real minutes following a redshirt year. So
people are going to learn about John Tonje in March because there's still a lot of casual Wake Me in March college basketball fans. There's people in Wisconsin who are going to learn if he has a big game, like, oh, wow, this guy's good.
And the Badgers have most of this week off. They only have 1 game this week, and it is a doozy. Saturday, they head to Purdue, who is ranked, where are they in this week's poll? They are number 7 in this week's AP poll, 19-5. Badgers 19-5 as well. Wisconsin at Purdue coming up Saturday. It's a big one. It's a big one. Big road test for the Badgers. Intrigued by Marquette this week, because they do need to bounce back. They're at DePaul tomorrow. And that should be an easy bounce-back opportunity. But you never know on the road and losing 3 in a row. Yeah, Hunter, I always make fun of him. He's a doomsday fan. A lot of ball game left. They'll be all right. They're a good team.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, there's some serious issues with them. I'm not disagreeing with that. But well-coached, disciplined team. Defensively, they're still pesky, but... Pesky. Allowing 77 to Creighton while only scoring 67 is not great.
That's Badgers type numbers.
Big time.
And my problem is with even just saying the well coached. Like, there's a certain level where after David Joplin, it's just after David Joplin goes 1 for 8 from 3, like 4 games in a row. Let's maybe coach him out of shooting so many threes. Like, let's maybe try and tell him, hey, pal, you're 6'7" and you're more athletic than the power forward that is defending you. Maybe actually try and dribble past him. Do something else. Maybe try and get the ball inside 15 feet for once instead of just hucking up a 3 the second the ball touches your hands. Like, let's do something else here. And instead, it's just the same thing over and over, and these guys try to shoot their way out of slumps, and it's really frustrating. And the problem is I don't see it changing, and that's where I'm like, I don't know about Shaka right now. Like, he's got to figure something out. And it's gone past, the guys aren't playing well. And I'm into you know what? Maybe the coach has to figure something out here instead.
Yes. We will see. We'll see.
Maybe
good opportunity.
Maybe I'm a Marquette hater, but
You are.
if they aren't like a top 10 team, I just have no belief in the program when it comes to tournament time.
Yeah, I mean,
I believed last year because that was irrefutable. When they are amongst the mix, to me it's like, nah.
Well, here's the thing, and I know a lot of people don't get into college basketball until right now, right? Like this is a new chapter of college basketball fans are coming now that the football season is in the books. The great thing about college basketball this year versus other years is there's like 30 good teams. I don't know that there's a great team. There's some really good teams, right? Like Auburn and Florida and Alabama seem like they're really good.
I think Duke's pretty good.
Duke's pretty good, but they're young. Right? Like Con Knippel and Cooper Flagg are still making freshman mistakes.
Cooper Flagg.
But yes, they're super athletic.
Yeah, Cooper Flagg was also playing against Team USA in the summer, so like he's a young, but he's kind of a grown man.
Don't get me.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are full blown NBA players next year.
Yeah, he's a killer.
Both of those guys are. And yes, Cooper Flagg is unbelievable. He's the number 1 overall pick next year. But they're young, and that's the tricky part with Duke that I can't quite figure out. But yes, they are really, really good. But then you talk about your Marquettes, you talk about your Wisconsins. It seems like there's like 30 teams that could legitimately win this thing in a couple of weeks.
Quick here.
Yeah.
Hunter, do you have the power rankings music? I would love top 5 least likely state for a number 1 overall pick to come from, because Maine and Cooper Flagg being from there.
You want me to power rank the least likely states that would produce a number 1 overall pick? Okay, I can do that. I just need one moment.
I think Maine is easy top 5. When you think Maine, you don't think absolute monster killer Hooper. That's just not what you think.
Okay, now
Alaska's got to be on there.
In my defense, I do not know the history of number 1 overall picks and where the origins
I wouldn't
are.
expect you to.
Okay. I think I've got my list. I need to hold on.
You don't need to particularly rank them in any order.
I'm doing it in order.
Oh,
Don't you worry.
that.
Don't you worry. I got you. All right, I think I'm ready. All right, number 5, I've got both of the Dakotas, North and South.
You can count them as one. Yeah.
So number 5, I have the Dakotas. Number 4, I have Alaska. I just don't know how many courts they got out there.
Not many.
I would guess not.
I would bet they have more frozen tundra than basketball courts.
It's probably a good prediction. Number 3, I just don't know what happens here. I've got West Virginia.
I think West Virginia might be off on.
Yeah.
Now,
come on, when they had Huggy Bear.
Could their college produce number 1 picks? Yes. But homegrown, native West Virginia basketball players, I don't know how many they got.
I feel like there were better options here.
Yeah, West
you got
Virginia,
some New England
too close
states
to
there.
Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2, I slotted in Maine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maine feels right.
And then number 1, I have Nebraska.
Nebraska. I had Idaho.
Oh, great, Paul.
Yeah.
Great. You know what? Scratch Nebraska, Idaho. Absolutely.
You also missed Vermont and New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would have.
The tricky,
you gave me 20 seconds.
the tricky thing with any of those mid-Atlantic or East Coast really up there, you get a lot of people who are from big cities that move out.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like how many New Hampshire basketball players are there? I can't really think of any. And I'm going to Google here, but most famous basketball players from West Virginia, I feel like is going to have like a NBA Hall of Famer.
Wait,
Most popular.
I am pretty sure that the logo might be from West Virginia. I think we might literally have one of the greatest of all time. Yep.
Jerry West is from West Virginia.
Yep.
Yeah.
The face of basketball.
I was like, as we were saying that, I was like, wait a second. I'm pretty sure he's from West Virginia.
I mean, otherwise, though, Deron Williams is probably Jason Williams, White Chocolate, OJ Mayo. Okay,
That's some hoopers.
West Virginia was bad. Okay, this is what it is.
Also,
okay,
what about Montana?
What we learned.
Montana's up there. You got a better shot of a elk playing basketball than probably some of the young men growing up there.
Cooper Flagg's like the only one of note from Maine. Idaho. Luke Ridnour. Elgin Baylor from Idaho.
Wow.
Oh.
Nebraska. Oh, Nebraska, great pull by me. Isaiah Roby listed as their most popular.
Only?
I nailed Nebraska.
Wow.
Fred Hoiberg, the coach, is from Nebraska.
What the hell
So
was
is Mark
Elgin
Pope.
Baylor doing in Idaho? Imagine being...
Dude, Connor Esigian is on this list. So I didn't
Imagine playing high school basketball against Elgin Baylor in Idaho.
Those poor
he's
kids.
putting up wilt numbers.
Yeah, like that he's getting guarded by like some poor 6'1" kid, and he's just like, yeah, I'm the second tallest on the team. I guess I'm playing as a center. Poor kid.
All right. Tyronn Lue went to Nebraska. Who knew?
See, are they mixing in college there? Yeah.
They are.
Because like homegrown, is Elgin Baylor from Idaho? Elgin Baylor from Idaho?
We're really stuck on this, and we got to get to what we learned. He was born in Washington, D.C., played at Phelps Vocational High School, which is in Washington, D.C.
But how did he get put on the
I think he's from
Idaho
D.C.
list?
He went to College of Idaho.
Oh.
So there you go. He's not even from there. So fair enough. All right. You learn something new every day. We learn something new today. It's time now for What We Learned. We've just got the one today because I need to get everybody's reaction on this. Even when you think he can't, he always steals the spotlight. Jay Glazer of Fox Sports tweeting this yesterday on Super Bowl Sunday. Big scoopage. Aaron Rodgers flew back to New Jersey last week to meet with the Jets about his future with the team, only to be told that the team was moving on from him. If that means he will be a June 1st designation, that allows him to sign with any other team on March 12th if he decides to continue to play. Given that Aaron made the effort to fly back to discuss his future, all signs point to him continuing to play. It just won't be for the Jets. So Aaron Rodgers, I don't even think he did it on purpose, but Joshy probably thinks he did. Steals a spotlight on Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, I don't. That one seems a little hard for me.
So you don't think it was his fault?
No, I think that was when, with the coaching change and all that, like it would seem to make sense. I didn't understand the last sentence. Him flying there for them to say they were moving on indicates he wants to keep playing.
Yes.
Like,
I agree with that.
I don't think anybody's under the illusion that Aaron Rodgers wants to keep playing football, but we're all trying to weigh the fact is being a member of the Tennessee Titans going to be worth Aaron Rodgers' time? Or is somebody like the Pittsburgh Steelers...
I think the Steelers are in play.
...or Vikings going to be enough for him? I can't for the life of me imagine why you would be so prideful that you would embarrass yourself to the degree of playing for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers at that age.
Why is that embarrassing?
Because you're not good enough. Your best expectation, especially in that division, is to get a wild card berth.
Yep.
That's what you're playing for? Just, I was going to say, go be happy, but that's not really in his nature.
Well, look, I mean...
That's
go
not
be with
fair
your
to
family?
say.
No, not really either.
Not really an option either. Here are the options, right? In terms of NFL teams that would take them. And this is just off the top of the head. Steelers, Titans, Saints, Vikings, Raiders, 49ers. I think those are the only options this year.
Yeah, I'd cross off the Niners. It's been rumored in the connections there, obviously, because of the tampering that happened while he was still a Green Bay Packer. But are you going to pay Aaron Rodgers and then enter into the Trey Lance sweepstakes again, where you're just hoping to find a guy in the draft and give up way too much capital to try and get it? Or are you just going to pay Brock Purdy and go, we've seen he's good enough if we provide him talent?
Yeah.
Minnesota.
It's the final year of Brock Purdy's deal, by the way. He's owed $5 million.
Here's something risky.
Uh-oh.
I think Minnesota is too smart to enter into the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes.
Oh, I agree.
I think they are run too correctly and have too much of a organizational motto and thesis that they're operating under to go, yes, we should add Aaron Rodgers into this. I think also Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers would be enemies. They would hate each other. Aaron Rodgers would laugh that guy out of the room. He'd go, remember when you're giving Cordell Patterson the ball in the fourth quarter late in the season? But yeah, we don't do that. That's just preposterous. Like, they would never. He'd be like, yes, you need to target Pat Fryermuth more. And Aaron Rodgers would say, why the hell would I do that?
Okay, so the long and short of this is you are not fully sold that Aaron Rodgers will play next year.
No.
And you actually aren't mad at him for stealing the spotlight on Super Bowl Sunday.
I think it was a topic for us to talk about. To me, it was a blip on the radar because I feel like it was already known.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it was, but it was confirmed.
Yeah.
And it makes it interesting. Like
him retiring, I would have said that's Aaron Rodgers stealing the spotlight.
Yes.
Him being in this weird haze of who knows what the hell's going on.
I just look forward to getting the answer. March 12th, the start of free agency, a month from Wednesday. Let's go, baby. Almost there.
I mean, if you're an Aaron Rodgers fan, you want him to retire, right?
No.
Oh.
No. One last rodeo.
How much shame can be placed upon your feet?
I don't think it's shame. Because this doesn't make me forget how great he once was.
Yeah, of course
He's
it doesn't.
getting close, though.
But I was going to say, a couple more years and we might start forgetting. They might take back an MVP and go, why the hell are you still out here, buddy?
What are you doing, pal? No, I mean, I would like him to have a fun last ride. Now, is that possible given the landscape of things? Maybe not, and maybe it's over.
Given his personality?
Part two. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, all right, that does it for us today. We're back at the Wednesday beginning at 12:30. Continue to parse through the Packers offseason and what needs to happen to get this team playing on the weekend we just had in Super Bowl 60. All right, I feel a little bit better. Thanks for walking me through with that. That was good. And then Hunter and Joshy decided to argue about Kendrick Lamar for a while, which was also really good.
You mean Josh decided to be wrong about Kendrick Lamar?
We're back with you at 12:30 on Wednesday.
Knuckle sandwich, buddy.
I can
No
take
knuckle
you.
sandwiches here.
A noogie.
What do they call it? A swirly?
No, a noogie's different than a swirly.
No, I know, but when you hold them upside down and dunk them in the toilet.
Yeah, that's a swirly.
Let's give Hunter a swirly.
I think that'd
I'm
be
going to
more
be honest.
difficult.
I think I'm a little too big for you guys to be able to lift me up and do that.
We'll talk to you Wednesday beginning at 12:30. Peace.